Hi, I'm Clyde with Carter's at the Track. I'm going to go through a tech inspection that you'll have when you come to one of our track days. So first off, we want to check and make sure the bike is clean. That's the first impression we get as instructors when we inspect your bike, is how clean it is. That tells us a lot about how well you take care of your bike. If it's very clean, it means you've essentially inspected it. Because as you clean the bike, you're inherently going to be able to find things that are wrong with it. So that's a very important first impression we have of your motorcycle. Next, we're going to go through the front end. We'll turn your bike off if it's running. We're going to get down, we're going to check the brake pads. We're going to check and see how much meat is left on those, make sure they're going to be good enough for the full day. We're going to check the condition of your tires. We're going to ask you if you have the tire pressure set. We may or may not know what pressures you should be running depending on the type of tire. We all run Dunlops because, well, they're the best. We also are going to check your brakes, make sure they work. You'll notice that there's not a lot of play in these. You don't want to have it be squishy. These guards are not required for just a track day, but they are required for racing. We'll check your clutch lever, make sure that it's got nice and good play in it. And your handlebars in general, we're going to check to make sure the clip-ons are tight. We're also going to check to make sure your side mirrors, if you have them, are either folded in or covered up with tape. If you have frame sliders, we typically grab those and we check to see if they move, because those are a motor mount inside there. And so if that guy's loose, it means your frame is loose with your motor. Case covers are not required for track days. They are for racing, obviously. Rear sets, we're going to check those mostly because we find at times these Allen bolts will back out. So we'll check that. We also check your rear brake, make sure it's good and doesn't have a lot of travel. Half the time we check those, someone says, it's okay, I don't use my rear brake. Well, if you go off the track, you're going to need your rear brake, because if you grab the front brake, you're going to fold the front end. If you have a tail light, we're going to check to make sure that it's covered up, or there's a little connection in the wiring inside here where you can disconnect the brake light. So we'll make sure your brake light doesn't work. We're going to come around, we're going to check to make sure you got a lot of meat left on your rear brake pads. We're also going to come around and we're going to check your chain. There should be about 1 inch of play in the chain. Most often when we find something wrong, it's too tight. And remember, your bike compresses under acceleration and in hard cornering. And so when that happens, that chain gets tighter. And when the chain gets tighter, it basically takes that rear shock out of the equation and makes the rear end just way too stiff. So make sure you got good travel in the rear and the chain, but not too much. And the last thing we're going to check before we set you loose is your oil drain plug. We're going to ask you if the oil has been changed recently, because even if you've gone to the dealer and they change the oil for you, it does not mean that it shouldn't be checked. You wouldn't be the first person to come to a track day, have an oil drain plug come out, and you just cause an hour delay for everybody while we clean up the track. So put a wrench on it, make sure that oil drain plug is tight. If it's safety wired, even better. But just double check that oil drain plug. And that's the basics for getting your bike ready for the track day with us. So check out cartersatthetrack.com, sign up for one of our track days, and we'll see you at registration.